Daz. I've got 3 reel-to-reels to have a quick look at today. I seem to have quite a lot of them. It is something that interests me, but I just don't get time to look at these very well. But anyway, we've got 3 here. We've got Telefunken, what's effectively a JVC, and a HIFIVOX, which is a French machine. That's an MH2000. It's a TR541, the Nivanko, I think that's how you pronounce it, and the Telefunken is a 201 TS. So these are of different ages. I guess they're all around the 70s, I think, or late 60s. We'll have to get them on the bench, look at them. I've had to have a tidy up in my workshop because I'm just running out of room. Literally, I couldn't move my chair. Okay, so to the HIFIVOX. I'll just turn my other light on. There we go. Right, interesting looking machine. It's got a meter. There's a control here, which appears to have an on-off, but I think that's auto manual level. I think the most interesting thing about this is I believe these are 4-inch spools. Now, it came with a couple of spools, but no tape, so I've wound some tape on. Well, that looks more like 4.5 inches, doesn't it? To be honest. Tape measure's got a bend in it. 2-speed. It's a combined arrays playback head, the looks of it. What's interesting is, hopefully that's focusing, inverse DIN plug. There is another one marked tape. That looks like possibly a 3.5, perhaps that's for headphones. Some mains input and 3 voltages. 160 is very unusual. I'm not quite sure where that comes from. There are some accessories in here. Here's the mains lead. Very strange looking thing. Here's the microphone with that inverted DIN plug. What else have we got flapping around in here? Ah, that's useful. There is an adapter. So that would be useful, and now I assume that's the stand for the microphone. So I think what I'll do is I'll power this up on DC. Made in France, 3 watts, so what is that, 25 by 50? I don't know what that means. I reckon that's C cells. I might have to think about running this on mains, because I don't think there's any way I can get to those contacts down the bottom there. Well, that might be a main switch. Very high resistance, dirty contacts. Let's give it some mains. Well, I gradually brought it up to 220 through the dim bulb, carefully and slowly, just to reform capsules. A bit of a hum to start with, but that died down. Sounds a bit noisy, but we do have something happening, so... Let's see. Interesting. Ooh, brake's not working. Sounds definitely a bit noisy now. Yeah, brake's not working. Got an ever so small pinch wheel, but it is playing, so that's a good start. That meter's stuck. Probably loosen the bearing will fix that. So that's good news. So this one looks like it's going to be a goer. Well, I've got the Nivanko here, or the JVC. It's easy for me to say. That's a 5-inch spool, and that is, I guess, a 5 3/4. That measures 6. So what's this one for a matter of interest? That is a 4-inch, so the one on the French one must be 4.5. Okay, right. Well, I know on this one that the I know for a start this pinch wheel looks exceedingly rough, but let's look at the rest of the machine. I think the volume control's loose as well. It's got volume, tone, fast forward is separate. There is a monitor position and it says it's AGC, so this does not have manual recording level. Hopefully that's in focus. We've got ear, aux in, remote and mic. Now I think the mic might be inside this. Oh, by the way, there's a sleeve here, so that must be changing speeds, but it looks like the equalization is not dealt with, so it doesn't change equalization. Let's have a look what's in here. So this one has mains as well. Interesting. And what else is hiding in here? Oh goodness, it's like a cave. Oh, I have got a microphone. Interesting arrangement. You've got a jack plug and a power plug, so that's an interesting arrangement. So I've got microphone. Oh, and there's a voltage selector. 100, 110 to 120, 200 and 220 to 230. So I can run this one up on mains as well. So I imagine the cord comes out of there, like so. Right, there we go. Right. I don't know why I left the microphone out, but there we go. Usual thing, it's burnt the plastic again. Right, so this one's got two separate heads. Right, there we go. Now I happen to have, ooh, what is that? So let's clean that up. This one, because I've got a manual for it, I know it's AC bias, but it's DC arrays, which is a shame. But I think it's 1 7/8 and 3.5 inches. Right, let's get this one powered up. Well, this one doesn't seem to have a mains battery switch that I can find, so let's have a look. Oh, there's a relay in it. So there's a relay in it. So anyway, I'm going to bring this one up gradually. I don't know if we'll be able to play anything with the pinch roller in that condition. I have got a few spare pinch rollers off other machines, but I doubt it's going to be interchangeable. Well, working electronics. Capacitors can't be too bad because they're running. Now, I don't know, this appears to be, it just pulls the pinch wheel away and it relies on the take-up. And it's not working very well, is it? There's not enough tension there, and now the pinch wheel is... I can't believe this is even managing to grip it, it's so cracked. There was definitely a lump coming from the rewind spool. Let's see. Ooh. Something could be cracked. No, that doesn't sound too good, does it? Okay, so that we've basically got amplification operation. There's no real indication of record, but that's a good start. Need to find a pinch wheel and we also need to investigate that mechanical clunk, clunk, clunk. But hey, that's 2 playing out of 3. And now the Telefunken. Foam looks okay, but I already know there's something a bit not good about this one. Oh well, we'll just try and go along with that with blue tack on it. But this is a 4-track machine because you've got 1, 2 and pair, I assume that stands for. Feels a bit stiff. More modern controls on this one. That's volume and that's tone. There's a tape counter, a pause. Oh, I see. Push back to operate. Let's have a look at sockets at the side, but I think it might be difficult. Well, there's lots of them. Well, that looks like radio, that looks like microphone, that looks like earphone, that looks like speaker. There's a switch here, I don't know what that does, maybe it turns the speaker off, and there's a switch here for radio and microphone. This is obviously a main set, transistorized again. And, yep, 2-core cable on it. Feet look pretty perished. 110, 240 volts only. There must be a voltage selector somewhere. It says it's 27 watts, but I don't know where the selector is. I didn't see it. No, perhaps it's internal. No, I can't see the voltage selector. Oh yes I can. Ah, there it is. It's through that hole. 240. Good. Okay, let's bring this one up gradually. As you can see, there was some clips, I presume, that went in there and then allowed you to remove that. As you can see, there's a clip here, so there is a requirement to remove that. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to repair this at all, because you need to be able to remove it. I could glue it down, of course, but needs thinking about. Okay, I've gradually brought this one up and I could hear the motor spinning up. The amplifier works off the motor on this one. It's got an overwind on the motor. I've got a light on the VU meter, bit of rattling going on. I'm going to have to just be careful with this spool. Let's try it. Well, it's going. So that's the speaker switch then. Do I dare do this? You know it's going to end up in a mess, don't you? Oh, that feels quite strong. Ooh. I think there's a brake jammed on because that is very stiff. Maybe not. My tape's obviously a bit loose. Ooh. That's not good. This has been recorded on a 2-track machine, so the other side is probably blank, because otherwise what we'd hear is we'd hear the other side going backwards because we're playing on a 4-track machine. Oh, that's not good. Okay, well, I'd say I've been pretty lucky. There's 3 that basically make a sound. Okay, I thought I'd talk some theory about reel-to-reel that I've learned over the years. The machines I've got basically come in 2 formats, 2-track and 4-track. And basically that's how the layout of the heads is on the tape. So with a 2-track machine, you've basically got the upper part as 1 track and the lower part as the other track, and it can be recorded, so this is 1 track and this is the other track when you turn the tape over. Or actually you can record stereo, but you won't be able to turn the tape over. It tends to be used by professionals. The later type was the 4-track machine, and again you can use 2 tracks for stereo and the other 2 tracks for stereo when you turn the tape over, or indeed have 4 mono tracks. And it's also possible to use it as a 4-track recorder, and I do have one of those, whereas you've got facilities to record on all 4 tracks at once. I guess that's for musicians really. So these 2, you can't really play a 4-track on a 2-track machine. You can sort of play a 2-track on a 4-track machine. It depends on the machine, but generally you only play half the track. Now the problem with dividing the track further is that you've got less magnetic material as you increase the tracks, so your signal to noise ratio reduces. So a 2-track will always have a better signal to noise ratio than a 4-track. There were so many different speeds as well with reel-to-reel. These 3 tend to be the popular ones for domestic and these for professional machines. Just a note, 1 7/8 is what's used for cassette, and 3 3/4 is what's actually used for reel-to-reel. Normally the tape path in a reel-to-reel looks something like this. Sometimes the record and playback head is of 1 item. It's useful having a playback head because you can monitor your recordings, plus the gaps can be more aligned for record and playback because they tend to be slightly different for better results, and you've got your pinch wheel to pull it through. Sometimes the tape's held taut against the head by the mechanism, other times there's pads at the bottom here. Basically, when recording, when you play back, you need equalization. Because of the head being a magnetic device, it doesn't produce an even frequency response. You need equalization. And in record, you also need equalization. Erasing the tape. Now, there's two types of bias system. There's DC and AC. And AC is the superior system. It just works so much better, and it was something that was developed during the war. Before we used DC, we used to use wire, as you know. There's wire recorders, and before we had the plastic tape that we have now. The problem with DC bias is it does produce distortion, sibilance, and it's generally horrible. So AC bias is to be preferred. So if a machine uses AC bias, it will be better. And basically that's going to be a high frequency signal between 40 and 80 kilohertz, generally 3 times the highest frequency you want to record. So any machine that uses AC bias is going to be superior. So basically what you have in recorders, you have a bias oscillator that erases the tape with an AC signal. Now you can use DC for arrays as well, but again that's noisy, that's so inferior again. Some of that bias signal is fed to the record head, and it's quite a high level, so that biases the tape. A tape has an S curve, a bit like an FM2 modulator, and you need to push your recording so it's in the straight portion. If you don't, it just sounds distorted, a bit like an unbiased push-pull stage. Also, something just mentioning, tapes come in different thicknesses. That's the thickness of the tape itself. A bit like cassette tapes, the 120s are very thin. And you could get standard play, long play, double play, and triple play. And I don't know why I've put a T in there, I think that should be a P. So you could get various in length. And there's so many different spool sizes as well. That's just a selection here of ones I've got. The most popular ones I used to use would be the 7 and the 10.5 nab size reels, but I've got 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, 5 3/4 here as well, so there's quite a variety of different spool sizes. So you know, there was a bit of incompatibility there, but I hope that's some help anyway before I start just explaining some of the terms I use if you're not familiar with tape recording. So it looks like to clean the heads you've got to take this off, but I'm guessing these screws here will get the top off, but there doesn't seem to be any way of cleaning the heads. But mind you, the gap is nice and big there, so you can probably get in and clean them quite easily. Well, removing those screws seems to allow the front to sort of hinge, but I'm not going to force anything. It could be that I have to remove something in the bottom, and there are some screws here, so maybe that's what's holding it from the other side. There's also screws in the feet, I don't exactly know yet. Using my brain for a second, if I look at the moulding of this, that looks like that's all one part at the bottom here, so the root has got to be through the top. So I've removed those 2 screws. I don't think I need to remove those, but I'm not sure. No. Okay. Look at that. There we go. Oh my goodness. And foam is crumbling everywhere. Right, well, there we go. I can see part of the mechanism. Is there enough wire to... Yes. There's a very tight wire to the VU meter. Oh no, look, all the foam is all crumbling. I'm going to have a mess on my bench now. I've decided to put 2 screws back on the other side and remove these 4, but this one is rusted. So we'll try a bit of slurp in that and see if it frees it. Just took the main selector out. Haha. There we go. Ooh, right, there we go. And we're in. Some dust in here. Oh, right, and there's the motor. I bet that's a... Is that a centrifugal? So what we've got in here then, we're going to look at electronics straight away. Push-pull stage, mains transformer I assume, ferrous electrolytics, BC158, so some silicons. I bet they're germanium output stage. Metal rectifier still. So it looks interesting. So yeah, so it is designed to come out that way, I guess. What is that for? I'm sure it will all be revealed. So is the motor electronically controlled, or is it... what's this? Oh, that's convenient. I bet that's for the heads. That will be a record playback switch. There's a coil there, so there may be some hope of some AC bias here. That's interesting. I won't touch that. There's the on-off switch, which is for the mains. Intriguing, I assume. Yes, for the mains and for possibly the low voltage as well, because there's a second winding there. Any clues to date of this manufacturer? Looks like that might have been leaking, so I'm lucky I didn't have any further problems, but yeah, some corrosion. I wonder if someone left some batteries in. I saw a little peg sticking out, so that's probably the battery changeover there. So you've got low voltage this side and high voltage this side. Now I guess that there was a lead that allowed you to run it from an external power supply, possibly even in a car. So that's what that little is. I don't think that would meet safety requirements these days, although it is a fairly good spacing. Ooh. So it appears the other two screws in the bottom were holding the loudspeaker. So that's now 3. I think I might unsolder that. I can always plug one in this jack plug if I need it, but there's unfortunately loads of foam everywhere, so that's a bit unfortunate. Well, basically I'd unscrewed the pot. I pushed the knob off from the other side and it was still difficult. And I've unsoldered the VU meter, whichever one it was now, this one. Now we can see our mechanism, and it looks very interesting, different to what I've seen before. He's just picking up a plastic tool. The flywheel looks amazingly small. Whether there's metal inside this, I don't know. Here's the motor drive, and it's got 2 thicknesses for the 2 different speeds. And then this idler wheel clicks between the 2 and attaches it to the flywheel. Pinch wheel's a nice little thing, very unusual shaped, but it feels in good condition, so that's good news. Excellent screening around the tape heads to keep hum out, so that's good. 2 brakes and a variety of gears that, well, wheels that make for different things. I've got it in stop at the moment, and the brakes are pretty good. The spools come off as well, so they can be clean. I see a lot of grease down here that's gone hard, so they will need looking at. Speed controller for the motor. Looks like it's probably a germanium transistor. What it will be, I guess, is a... oh, there's a second transistor there, which is probably silicon. And I guess that probably that there will be... it's some sort of speed regulator, and I guess it's done probably, it's probably a constant voltage one. So if you put a constant voltage on a brush motor, it runs at a constant speed, sort of, because it's back EMF, because it's also a generator when it's spinning. It will regulate itself. So if you put constant voltage in, it'll should stay at more or less a constant speed. So interesting thing is this bit of metal's pushing down on the meter. I've no idea why that is. I'm still finding bits of foam. I found a millipede as well, which is in here. Ooh. So I'm going to study this mechanism, I think. And so that's stop. That is fast forward. So we've got drive from here to here. Yep. So just put it in rewind. So where's it running now? From here to here. There's a rubber reel on there. Right round. So that's how rewind's done. Play. Let's see if we can... yeah. There you go, whoops, watch that spring. So you've got a cork as your slip clutch, piece of cork here, the looks of it. So that's driving the front spool, so you've got some give, so it's not full tension, that's what that cork is for. Feels a bit dry. Yeah, that's not so good. It does look a little dry, but that's basically how the mechanism works, so I guess it's a case of just playing with it. Now I've got the battery wires. Once I've figured out what the battery wires are, I can run it off a power pack, because I don't want this on mains while I'm working on it, especially with exposed mains down the bottom here. That wouldn't be good news. Right, well, I've got it running on the bench okay now. 12 volts. When I looked at the battery compartment, it takes basically 8 C cells. I thought, blimey, yes, that's quite a lot. Yeah, very good torque, because it's actually stalling the motor, so that's not bad. Okay, so let's just have a listen. Bit of a racket. I'm just trying to think how to get at the motor really and lubricate that, but I guess I'm going to have these spools off. That needs lubricating, re-lubricating and cleaning. This bar at the bottom here needs re-cleaning and lubricating as well. I think that's where I start. Looks like you can take the head part off. Yes, because the flywheel is going to need lubricating as well, of course. Brake blocks look fairly okay, although I don't know why we had that spill. It might just be because the, let me think, yeah, the now that's interesting. That's actually stopped the motor when I've pressed stop. So yes, when you're in stop. Yes, I've got the spools off. Yeah, that is just a square belt, so that could be replaced if necessary. It does look a bit cracked. I might try turning it inside out. Plastic looks a strange colour, but so just get these lubricated and cleaned up. Get my IPA out. I best be careful not to put too much on the rubber. Rubber doesn't like IPA much. So, but I've got some rubber reviver somewhere. By the way, I didn't point this out. That looks like an equalization switch for the 2 speed, so that's good. Quite a laborious job removing grease, so I usually sit here listening to music while I'm sort of doing this job. Ugh. Sometimes you think you could have gone at this a different way. It is possible to access this bearing from the other side, but I decided not to. But that is quite heavy, so whatever that is made from is quite heavy. But yeah, I decided to take it this way. It looks like it's got nylon bearings, and the grease has dried up there, so I'll just get that cleaned up. It was quite hard because the head block's got to come off, as well as various other bits, and I've loosened this, so I've got room to manoeuvre. But anyway, never said this job would be easy. Close up of the flywheel. Yeah, I don't know what's inside this to make it heavy, but notice the sleeve on the capstan. That's unusual. There's a little point bearing. So yeah, it's a bit unusual. I've never seen a plastic sleeve on a capstan before. That's quite puzzling. One thing that puzzles me rather about this is this pinch wheel, because it doesn't even seem to be the size of the tape. Unusual. Normally the pinch wheel would be as big as the tape or bigger, so I'm a bit puzzled by that. It's a case of cleaning these surfaces and the rubber surfaces on the brakes, and the brakes are better than they were, but that one is not as efficient as this one. Unfortunately, I'm not sure why. It could be that the rubber has deteriorated more on this one, but I've been cleaning all the surfaces with very, very fine sandpaper, these surfaces, etc., and the rubber ones, and then clean them. Also the cork, and things are gripping a lot better than they were. Yes, it was stalling the motor, more or less. That's what you want. So yeah, that's a good indication that you're getting there. What I can't get used to is the fact the stop button has to go down. I'm just not used to that at all. Okay. I wouldn't say that's the world's best wind, but something occurs to me. I want to set the speed up. I'm going to have to use smaller spools because it's very hard to get to the preset from there. Right, let's see if it breaks. Not wonderfully. Yeah, it's the rear brake. Okay, it's not too bad. Okay, I think we'll find that reverse is a lot better. Yes, because this brake is better, more efficient. Yes, much better. Not sure what else I can do apart from trying to replace the rubber blocks. There's no adjustment for the braking. Yeah, still spilling. Oh well, I'll have another look to see if I can clean the surface a bit better, but the more surface I take off, the less tension there's going to be on the brake. Just desoldering the tag on the motor, and I'm just hoping that this cover on the motor will come off somehow. There's another wire there. I've got a massive bit on here. There we go. These are all suppression capacitors, I suspect. Will it come off now? Yes-ish. Oh, there we go. I was going to lubricate the bearing, but I can't even see I've got access to it. That is bizarre. Oh, it's a very open looking motor. Yeah, how odd. I'm going to try and get some oil down here, preferably without getting on the commutator. Yeah, this just isn't easy. I'm hoping I can get some oil in here without having to take the motor apart, but what I don't want is oil obviously all over my pulley. That will be a problem. Well, it looks like you have to hold the record, the little metal arm that moves the record switch out of the way so you can get it out. Just 4 screws holding this, but oh my goodness, is it going to hit the motor? Yes. Maybe these have a little bit of give, but yeah. Yes. Well, here's with the circuit board out. You can see the back of the switch now. These 2 connections went to the equalization switch, so I need to remember to reconnect those. There's a small electrolytic on here. Well, 100 microfarad ain't small. It's made in France, so that's probably why it looks a little unusual. It's got a green end and a red end. That's a bit odd. You can see, I think you can see where we've had corrosion from batteries. It's definitely corroded that screw. There's 3 changeover switches. One's on record, one's on stop, one's on play. Nothing on rewind or fast forward, but it explains why when the stop switch is not down while the motor is running. So I suppose it explains that. That's the lever on the spring that moves this. So now I've got access, I can check some of the electrolytics out. ESR looks good, but a 470 microfarad capacitor that's risen to 639 is very suspicious in my eyes, so yeah, I think I'm going to need to do a little bit of changing. There isn't many electrolytics in here. Okay, the amp board is now all recapped, so that job's done. We're still playing okay, but we've still got some motor noise. Just hold the speaker up so you can hear it. I stopped the motor, so Why that is, I'm not sure. Obviously we've got all new electrolytics now, so I suppose that's the next problem I shall have to address. Not having a circuit diagram makes this difficult, but we've basically got a 4.7 nanofarad connected to ground on this shield that's round the top of the motor. Now obviously it's a brush motor and it sparks, so that's some of the noise is coming from. There is a 22 nanofarad from the ground to the positive of the terminal. Now I would have thought that would have been adequate. Then you've got twisted wire pair that goes round to the voltage regulator around here. Now I can only hear the crackling when I turn the volume up, so it's obviously getting into the preamp somewhere. The head is very well screened, it's got that metal cage around it, so I doubt it's getting directly in the head, but I guess I could take that off and just have a listen. So this looks adequately suppressed to me, so I'm wondering where the problem lies. There must still be some noise getting into the preamp. I assume it's through the power supply lines. One way would be to disconnect the power to the motor and run it on another power pack, and then we'll know if it's direct or whether it's coming through the supply lines. I've got a separate supply on the motor now. Still hear it. Okay, I've replaced the head with a 330 ohm resistor. I can still hear it. Wow. I think it's a lack of screening on this amplifier. Hooked an inductor on immediately on the motor side. That seems to help actually. That's good. So that's an 11 microhenry choke. That's not a lot. Well, I'm in record mode and there's 44 kilohertz there, so that must be the bias on the tape head. So I assume, it depends how it's done, but if I go to the raise head, is that the raise head? Yeah, there's power on that side of the raise head. What have we got? 4 or 5 volts peak to peak. And if I look at the other side, perhaps it'd be better if I looked right across the raise head. No, this is floating, so that should be okay. That's better. My goodness, 40 volts. Wow. Well, we do know it takes a lot of power. You'll see the power this is consuming. It's 200 milliamps in record. That's just the power for that raise head. And let's just have a look at the voltage on here. Ground. 58 volts on the recording head. My goodness, must be a high impedance recording head. Wow. I've tested the meter and the meter appears to be working fine. I just measured its resistance. Okay, it whacks it slightly, but it doesn't do any harm. What I noticed is there's this piece of metal here, and that was actually pushing on the back of the meter. It is actually inside it, and I'm wondering if that's not supposed to do that. Perhaps this is just supposed to rest on here for whatever reason. I don't know. I can't see it's for screening, so I'm just wondering if I stick something over the top there so this piece of metal just pushes on it without going inside, that the meter will be okay. I'm just seeing what happens in record. I've plugged the microphone in, and what I've discovered is the microphone switches it, and so does this adapter here. You've got to have that in to run the motor, so it's quite important. But as you can see, I'm getting some activity there on the VU meter. It's going up and down. But if I plug the microphone in, one, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So either the microphone's faulty or the microphone input is faulty. Well, it's not too hard to work it out. Those two are the switch, those two have got no pins in, and these two are the microphone, and I'm getting no continuity, so I suspect something's open somewhere. I do like these sprung contacts, very nice. You get good contact on the batteries with these. Nice strong springs, so I do like that attention to detail. I'm going to try and putting it back together this way round. I've put a bit of foam up here. It seems to be alright. I'm not quite sure what it was for. Perhaps it's to seal it, the speaker, better against the cabinet, or stop it vibrating, or what. But I'm going to attempt to put it back together this way and see if it works. This way it either will or won't. It's just the meter and the potentiometer and main switch to fit to the top of the lid. Oh, it's much easier to see it through the camera. But this is the similar sort of thing to what you'd use on a record player, and I think we can see that that's definitely not stationary, is it? Well, I'm pretty convinced now that I was being lied to. I'm sure I used to own one of these when I was younger, and I don't know, I'm on the black side and that seems to be correct. I've checked against another reel-to-reel and yeah, I'm a bit puzzled, so if anyone's got one of these, it's a little bit puzzling. But the wheel doesn't run very well, it sometimes vibrates, so that's when you lose it. And though the camera is on a 50th of a second, I've just manually overrid it. Yes, so of course what happened was, as I ended up setting the speed of this machine 20% slow, so that wasn't clever. But hopefully it's now right. When you look at these instructions and anti-clockwise is being crossed out, it does tend to suggest that something ain't right. I've just noticed there's a hole there so you can get to the speed adjustment. Oh well. As you can see, I'm having quite a bit of fun here trying to get this microphone apart. I've tried applying a little bit of pressure with the vice of knowledge. I'm just going around the edge and I'm hoping this will come off. It's not screwed, like most of them are, and I'll probably then find that the problem is the cable. I really want to figure out what this connector is. It's such an oddball. I thought it was just a female DIN, but it isn't. Well, yes, it's got a screw thread, but it's also got a lot of glue on it, so that must be the insert. And oh no, that's glued in as well. Well, this is interesting. I hope it's in focus. That is your switch, and those are your microphone connections, I believe. So you have that way, and there's a couple of contacts on here, and they slide up and bridge it. Yes, the microphone is open circuit, but how the earth do I now replace the switch mechanism as well? That's a bit of a one-way trip, really. That is really bizarre idea how to do it. I honestly thought that's an electrical switch, but it's just a pair of contacts that obviously slide up here, I believe, and that's your microphone, and that's open, so obviously damp has got into it and got through the fine wires, but yeah, oops. Well, I've just got a Grundig microphone out. Let's see what happens. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Testing, testing, 1 2 3. Testing, testing, 1 2 3. Testing the HIFIVOX MH2000. Testing, testing, 1 2 3. 2 1 2 1 2. Testing, testing, 1 2 3. Testing, testing, 1 2 3. Testing the HIFIVOX MH2000. Testing, testing. Right, I noticed I can actually hear the audio slightly in record. Only slightly. What I haven't found out yet is whether if you plug a speaker into the jack socket, whether you can actually monitor it. So it might be worth just trying that briefly. Yes is the answer. So you probably monitor with headphones, so if I can get this recording level right, I assume that's the map, that's just going into distortion where that silver bit is, but let's just see if we get a recording. I only use one channel, so it might sound a bit funny. 12 volts, it goes loud with a 12 ohm speaker. Not bad, I think. It's not a bad machine. I think it's quite a quality machine, this one. AC bias, AC arrays, electronic speed control, screening round the heads. I think it's yeah, a very nice machine actually. It's certainly, you know, I look at German machines, I think this French machine is very good. Well, that's the HIFIVOX MH2000. I think it's a nice machine actually. It's nicely made, and no belts in it. That's one good advantage, so I'm quite pleased with that one. So pity about the microphone, but I need to do a little bit of work on the case, I think, see if I can make a new strap for it, but basically that's working well now, and I'm quite pleased with it. So on with the next two, hopefully. That's if I don't get bored and change my mind and do something else as usual. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.